Hey, everybody, I'm Corey Tanasoff, and I'm joined by my co host, Gerald Mendoza, and this is We Talk Politics. Now, today we are going to be focusing again on the 2020 election. As the title shows, we have 99 days until Election Day, but we're going to stray away from that a little bit to start off and instead head towards the omnipresent coronavirus pandemic going on in our country and the world. So I'm going to begin with the first headline that I saw when I woke up this morning, and it was that there are 14 Marlins, not the fish, the baseball players, tested positive for coronavirus and two coaches on that staff. This led to a cancellation or postponement of the Orioles at Marlins series that was supposed to happen, as well as a postponement of the Yankees at Phillies over concern of the hygienic in the visiting, what do you call it? The away dugout. So
Right.
this brings us to the question of, should we continue American sports while this thing is spreading in one of the most contained way possible?
I mean, I'll be honest. I had my doubts about um, the traveling, isolation while still traveling idea that the MLB had. And I think, in a way, I've been validated in my concerns because we're not even a week into this, and one team has already technically had, from what we can see and from what we can tell, an outbreak of COVID-19. Um, I know it would have been harder to try to pull off what the NBA, NHL, and the MLS did, but they have all, for the most part, seemed more successful in their ideas of trying to implement the restart of sports in this country by doing the hub system where everyone, the entire league, stays together in isolation at one locale to try to minimize any outside exposure. And from what I can tell, at least in these early moments, from what we can see in testing numbers, that seems to be working a lot better than this traveling idea that I think is what the NFL was going to base itself on, which could be even worse.
Yeah, the NFL has far larger rosters than the MLB and is a contact sport where everybody hits somebody else on any given play. Now, my only gripes about your point here are that the NBA, NHL have yet to start out their seasons. So we are going to see lesser numbers as we did in training camps for MLB teams. We saw a couple players here and there get bouts with it. A couple teams have three guys, but it was all training camp, and it's not until the main rosters join as one another and they coalesce to start bringing in numbers to it. Now, we have seen the MLB, it reached with the Yankees at Nationals opener, had the highest views of any single season game on any MLB telecast since 2013. Now, the MLB can't say no to this. They can't shut it down right now. They physically have the ability to. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, won't. Rob Manfred, the commissioner, if you want to hear our thoughts on him, check out our earliest podcast or anyone in between of We Talk Sports. However, we see this happening in the MLB. It's hard to see that they're going to shut it down. We might see teams here and there pause a couple games, but that's what we have time for. Now, one of the things that I saw as a comment on this is if we can't expect teams who have. Oh, also, I want to include this, that afterwards, I was watching the Angels game today, and every single player there, if you're in the dugout, they were all wearing masks. They had hand sanitizer ready, and they were distancing as far as you can in an MLB dugout. Beforehand, if you watched that Yankees Nationals opener, there were high fives all around, people spitting out chewing tobacco or,
Which
hubba bubba.
which the league had already said was not supposed to be allowed this season.
Well, dip is banned from the MLB permanently, but you still do it. It's an unwritten, kind of grandfathered in thing. But they banned sunflower seeds. You're not supposed to be spitting anywhere at any time on a baseball diamond. However, we saw that at the plate, people spitting a little bit. We saw high fives after a home run. We saw little celebrations, hugs in the dugout. However, in these new games after this outbreak occurred, in the games today, we have seen big strides in this. Do you think that they would continue to keep making strides to make it an even safer league, or do you think that this is just a one-time thing and tomorrow everybody will forget about it?
I think what everybody wants to happen is for this to be a one-time thing and for everyone to forget about it. Because I think we want to believe that this is going to end up working because, again, we have been so starved for live sports in this country for a while. And, like we had mentioned earlier I think it was not last week, but the previous week's We Talk Sports vodcast, was that this was the triumphant return of America's pastime being what brings us back after, well, quite honestly, a very traumatic situation. And in this situation, I think everybody wants to believe that the MLB can pull this off just so that we can triumphantly return. But and they're hoping that this is a one-off situation with the Miami Marlins. But I personally, I think I can see this happening again. Not that I want to, but I think the possibility is still there. But if they do tighten up the restrictions that they had put forth at the beginning of the restart of the season, and they actually, every player and every coach and every manager and general manager and the league itself is going to be prudent and conscious of what needs to be done to keep everyone safe and to keep this sport going, I think it could work. But I do think it needs a lot more attention to the details instead of just thinking, all right, we're back playing baseball with the boys. Again, this is an unprecedented time, but if they can manage to make sure they remember that this is an unprecedented time and that they have to take care of the situation around them and be conscious of what they're doing, of what's in what they're doing with their mouths, and are they spitting anything out? Are they high-fiving after home runs? Are they giving hugs? Are they too close in the dugout? Are they wearing their mask when they need to? If they can keep that up, and I think this has shocked the entire league into thinking, oh, right, this is still a problem. We need to make sure we take care of ourselves and each other while we do this so that we can actually continue to do this. I think it could work out.
Right. And for anybody who is coming here from our Let's Talk or We Talk Sports show, I would like you to know, as a little sports fact, that for the first time since, I believe, 1954, the league has started out without a single 3-0 team in Major League Baseball. Every single team has a loss already. Gerald, I know that is a surprising stat to hear.
I mean, yeah, you would think there would be one team that it would be terrible. And I thought it was going to be the Orioles, especially after the way they started 13-2, losing to the Red Sox. But hey, they took the series.
The Orioles have as many. They went 2-2 on the Red Sox, correct?
No, it was 2-1. It was a 3-game series. Yeah.
Well, the Orioles have as many wins as the Los Angeles Dodgers do, so that spells greatness for the Baltimore Orioles. However, I also wanted to transition this into another thing. If we can't assure that the absolute safest standards that are upheld by the MLB, by the NFL, by the NBA, we still see excuse me one second. I thought I had to sneeze. Yeah, I do. Sorry.
No, you're good.
If we can't assure that these standards that we are holding the MLB up to even work, as we see a team with 12 cases or 14 cases, including coaching staff, work, then how should we guarantee that our kids can make it to school safe in the fall when a lot of school systems, public school systems and private alike, are opening back up their classes for in-person teaching? How do we feel about this?
I honestly, I don't understand truly, other than nothing but a political ploy, which is unfortunate. But I don't understand, or I don't see any reasonable way that could be considered, because at the beginning of this pandemic, and even throughout right now, we are limiting ourselves to low groups of people, low contact, less, the less you go out and about in the world around you, the better, unless, you're in your house, in your backyard, or doing something with your own family. But if you start coming into contact with others in a grocery store, at a party that someone has, or who knows, wherever else, that there's a large gathering of people, all of these things. And um, you know, adults are having a hard enough time managing themselves and being uh, good stewards of social distance. And you know, a bunch of people have somewhat jokingly, but also somewhat seriously, put up comments on social media like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram about, you know, do you really expect children to wear a mask for 8 hours, stay apart from each other in a school environment?
Well, the other thing that comes across in the defense of opening back up schools is that children have shown the lowest numbers of, if any numbers, of transmitting COVID-19 from a child to an adult. It seems as if most of it has stemmed from adult to adult contact. However, there's no surefire way to know. In this case, though, I'm going to put in my 2 cents. I believe that it's almost irresponsible to reopen schools to a full extent. Some places are doing kids 2 days in, then a break day to clean the school, kids 2 days out. That's your week. Then you have Sunday, Saturday to clean, and then you're back into the fire on Monday. However, I don't think that this is the way that we need to do it right now. It is better safe than sorry, as the age-old adage has always said. We need to look after the safety of our teachers, our custodial staff, and anybody who works in school, and the kids and parents and elders who may be taking care of these parents first and foremost. This is not a measure of that people can learn better in person. This is not a measure of what saves money. And I'm big time on saving money. This is a matter of what can help people save lives. And if that's what we're talking about, then we can't ignore schools. When talking about this entire establishment that has been based currently, this entire establishment that has been based upon, safety for COVID-19, or it's a hoax, whatever's been built up, we need these guards to be able to be established to show, hey, no ball games this year. Hey, no concerts this year. No going to the mall in the summer. We need that. And it doesn't just relate to things that are whims. You would think
Right.
that things that are just whims, things that are just leisure, have not been the only things affected. We had businesses that were put out, people who would have jobs normally, people who would work in stores, or people who would work as stockers or in receiving. They got put out of their jobs because of this epidemic. So to put schools in front of everything else, to put them paramount of the things that need to have people there, I think it's a little irresponsible. I think it's reckless, and I think it's ill-fated if we look at it like that.
Yeah, and I think that I know it's not easy for a teacher to suddenly be switched over to say, all right, you're teaching an entire class through Zoom and on a computer, and obviously that's not, I don't think that's what most teachers have been trained for. But at this point, I think any teacher, for the most part, would say, whatever keeps the children in my classroom safe. If it means I'm going to have to adapt, I'm sure they're willing to do it. And another thing is that you have to also consider the resources that a school system has. Now, you and me have had plenty of experience in the Howard County school system. Now, they have had a technology infrastructure that has gone beyond. That is actually really, really good. They have online databases. They have their own personal Google server, and network for people to communicate cross county, for teachers to be able to communicate cross county, for a bunch of different things, to be accessible at the whole time, which made it, I think, easier for this for Howard County when everything shut down, and to switch over to online remote learning and instruction was a lot easier because everyone was already used to dealing with a system that they're familiar with. However, in a place like Baltimore City, where the infrastructure isn't even there physically, let alone in the technology department, you know the student population outnumbers whatever resources they have available, yeah, that I can understand that there is a struggle in that. You'd think it'd be better for the children to be in school, but this, we can't control what's going on around us in terms of this illness still being here and still being a threat to life. So you have to do the next best thing, which is do whatever you can to keep people alive. And I don't think opening schools should be part of that equation.
Exactly. And to switch gears on this, but keep it the same, we are looking at something in terms of, as you mentioned, Baltimore City, and this comes down to a money issue. Baltimore City, repping Maryland, never repping Baltimore, terrible city. However, they lack the funding required in order to make anything happen here. Currently, there are two different, we'll call them, what was the word you used, Gerald, earlier in the pre?
Stimulus packages.
Correct. There are two stimulus packages that are being eyeballed by the Democrat and the Republican parties for dole-outs for a second wave of payouts. And the lowest cost one is the Republican, who still sits at a whopping $1 trillion, which, it's 4.5% of our national debt, but still, holy, a word that I shouldn't say on a friendly show, it's 4.5% of our national debt. So we're looking
Right.
at this, and would this just help the people? Would this just help businesses, or would this help our school systems?
This, from what I can tell, they have. I was looking at it earlier, and they said that there's going to be, I think it was 105 million or 105 billion going directly to the nation's school systems. It would stop it.
$105 billion, to put this in perspective. The state of Maryland was just about to pass the Future of Maryland Blueprint, or the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, which would have been the Kirwan Commission, which would have been $30 billion over the next 10 years. So if you have, you said $100 billion?
Right.
If you were, which it wouldn't, get divided equally over 50 states, then Maryland would get $20 billion, which would be 2/3 of the way towards funding the state's entire education budget for the next 10 years. However, we only need it for this 1 year.
Right. And I found
sorry,
some.
100 billion would go to 50 waves, 2 billion. My mistake. Calculated that wrong. It would almost fund an entire year of the Kirwan Commission.
Right. And I found the some of the stats on here per Forbes online, and it seems to be that they are still somehow willing to keep another round, to send out another round of $1,200 stimulus checks. It would, however, get rid of the $600 per week increase in the unemployment supplement, to be replaced with a 70% wage replacement program. So it would be proportional to what people were making, instead of just giving everybody $600 extra on whatever they would have gotten in unemployment. So it would be now proportional instead of a stagnant number, which I think could help with the cost of the unemployment situation right now. It would have a liability shield to protect businesses, schools, and healthcare providers from what the Republicans have described as unwarranted lawsuits related to the coronavirus. It would expand the payment protection program, including streamlined forgiveness process for a provision that would allow certain smaller businesses to take out a second 3P loan. And the big thing, I think, is that they would have additional funding for schools, with some of those funds reserved for schools that physically open. And it says several new tax incentives, including a 100% deduction for business meals.
Is this related to schools?
I'm not sure what that last part was. It's just what it said. in the notable exception, it says so far it's not clear that the bill will include any additional aid for state or local governments, which is a major sticking point for Democrats. And it's been speculated that the bill would allow states more flexibility to use the $150 billion that they were allocated by the CARES Act, which is the first stimulus bill that was passed by the Senate unanimously earlier this year.
Well, before I get to my next point, I would just like to remind anybody who's watching, it would mean a lot to the channel if you were to hit the like button, maybe subscribe if you keep finding yourself as somebody who keeps watching. Leave a comment if you think that anything we say, if you have a different viewpoint, if you agree with us, if you have a comment or a correction, please post it in the comments. But anything means a lot to this channel. But my next point coming up was I believe that the $600 a week additionally for unemployment, I think that should become phased out. The majority of people I've talked to, and it's not been a certain demographic, has been, hey man, what are you up to? Oh, not much, just hanging out at my house. These are how the conversations go. Just hanging out at my house. Oh, you're not working? No, if I work, then I'm not going to get my $600 extra. And that's what it's been. Again, banner right there. Like, share, and subscribe. Tailor-made. But people will end up making more money off of this unemployment than they do from even working. And then you get into that oft talked about welfare state where people think and they know, I can get more money just off of sitting around doing nothing than I can from actually working. And we've seen how that works in Baltimore City. And that's what I'm most familiar with. We see how that works. People sit and they wait for their welfare check. And, it's no discredit. I want to put this out there. No discredit. But the system has failed people. And I think this system, if this is how people are learning how to become adults, if you just made your first rent deposit, in February, and then you're out of work by March, then you're relying on this. And then you think, I could get used to this. And then you have to go back to work. You're not going to enjoy that transition. So I think the quicker that we can phase out these additional unemployment checks, the better it would be for the well-being of the American people. However, if it does come down to brass tacks, I do think that a reimbursement check of another $1,200 could be in the good interest of some people. Now, for the most part, I am under the assumption that most businesses are up and running in a limited capacity. However, this limited capacity might not take in all the people who were working there in an unlimited capacity. So for this $1,200, it might work. And I know it's a lot of weight to put on the federal government, but hey, if I were president, if every single person in the world were just like me, there would be not a single problem. But I just, what I'm getting at is I do believe there needs to be some oversight on this money handed out, maybe a note or some sort of file that you have been laid off and not just given to somebody who has been working the whole time. And hey, look, I'm all for people getting the most of their money, but this does come at your expense at a later date. To anybody, if you disagree with me, please write in the comments after you hear this comment. And I'm going to say at any point that the government gives you money, you have to give them double back. And we see that in the regular calendar year. You see that every single April 30th is tax day, I believe, every single year, pushed back this year for like 3 months. However, you see it every tax day is, I worked the entire year, I paid my taxes, and then they still say, fork it over. Every single thing that you take out, whether it's you have government health care, whether it's welfare, Social Security, you pay into Social Security your whole life. Broken system as it is, you pay into it, you get what you put in to a weird fraction. However, for anything else, you pay in, you pay more. So that's going to be the same thing as these stimulus packages, is you're going to get your $1,200, but you're going to pay about $3,600 back because it is a debt. It accrues interest. The United States cannot simply print out money to give it a whim and call it even, because then we factor inflation into it. And if you really want a crash course on that, look up how the Federal Reserve works. Your mind will be blown, and not in a good way. The entire thing amounts to, what do we think this is gonna come down to, Gerald? Is it going to be that the United States bill is going to suffice the people for the next 6 months, or is the world going to go back to normal? Or is coronavirus going to mystically go away, or is a vaccine going to become developed? What is your wise prediction, old sage?
Well, in terms of I personally think I don't know if this is going to be like what some scientists are thinking, that this could be a recurring kind of like a flu, new type of strain every year, kind of get a flu shot and have it somewhat under control type of thing. I don't know why. I don't know if this one's going to mutate as quickly, and I think it can be almost
currently classified under SARS, correct?
Yeah. It's a type of SARS virus, and it's just a very, unfamiliar, untested, unproven, non-studied version of it, which is why it's so hard to get a grasp on this. Luckily, the good news is that scientists have been making progress. One of the biggest vaccine tests in terms of I think they're now, instead of just in the human phase, there's now at 30,000 participants for this trial vaccine. They're making some good ground. There's
you saw my reaction. That's incredible. That's ridiculous.
I know, but
volunteer, I would 100%.
Right. And but yeah, so there's progress being made. I think eventually, and I'm saying eventually because I don't have an exact timetable, but eventually this is going to go away. But really what we're going to be dealing with once everything in this clinical stage is said and done, we are going to be dealing with this economic impact for, I think, decades to come. It's going to take time to recover all of the world's economies, especially ours, and even more so after all this debt that we're incurring by paying people. And I think if a comment that I was thinking about, some of the opposition to the $600 increase in unemployment is that people rightfully predicted and assumed that they were going to have a hard time going back to work. Employers were now looking for new workers because, they can only give so many hours because of restrictions. They can only have so many people working a certain day. And if you want to not lay off everyone, you have to limit people's hours. And instead of doing that, people are just going to say, I'm making more money sitting on my backside at home, getting $600+ a week. Yeah, no, I'm going to do that. And even though they have to pay for it, people don't, for the most part, don't think about how much they're going to have to pay back on tax day. And I wish they would. I wish, that was more part of the public conscience about what people take out. But either way, is that employers are now finding it hard to find new employees who want to work during a pandemic in a semi-essential business that is going to limit their hours and limit their limit their ability to work, while also exposing themselves to the outside world, which raises the risk of actually catching COVID-19. So it is a really bad situation to be an employer right now, because the government is really giving out a lot of assistance. And I'm not going to lie and say some people don't really need that much money to really help them get through it. But honestly, you can't keep on giving people I think an exponential growing amount of money, or something that is just 3 times what you would usually get on top of what you would usually get. So basically, I think that's a 300% increase on the assistance you would have received, and expect everything to be fine and dandy when everything's done. Because now, like you said, people are getting used to sitting and getting free money, and it's making it harder for employers to get those workers back.
Right. I just want to make a very quick update on the very first topic that we touched on, which was the Marlins, not the Fish, the Major League Baseball team that resides in Florida or Miami. I'm still caught up in the past. Commissioner Rob Manfred says that this is not a nightmare scenario and that MLB protocols are more than heavily equipped to take care of situations such as these. However, this also leads, and I'm going to feed back into our next topic afterwards, but what does this mean? And we're going to, if you would like to hear more of this kind of topic and sports talk, the link will be in the description to the We Talk Sports. I hate plugging things every 15 minutes. I don't like it as much as you hate it, but got to do it for the sake of the channel. But
Right.
what do we think this means for parity in the league? If a team happens upon a circumstance of COVID-19, then that severely hampers their entire chances for at least 2 weeks of contending, especially if it's their main players. How can this affect not even just the MLB, but ball clubs in general?
Again, everything goes back to this being something that no one has experienced. At least no one of this generation has definitely not experienced. And
Nobody
the
the 1500s with the bubonic plague.
Well, the Spanish flu was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But that also didn't help that World War I was going on at the same time.
Hey, didn't stop baseball.
Either way. Well, people actually listened to what the government told them back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, the impact of this is that these ball clubs and these teams are, being ravaged by this thing. And the thing I try to keep in mind is that these are still human beings who are out there playing, and their lives are literally being affected and being put on the line. And I get that, this is a very, I think, mentally important thing to do, is to try to bring back sports for the public psyche, and trying to, because sports has always been, in some sense, the escape from reality that we all need, in a form of entertainment that helps us cope with the situation around us. And it has suffered at the hands of what we need it to help us with most. And it is still suffering, evidently, from this situation. It just goes to show everyone that this is still a very mixed bag situation, that this is a very real threat to a lot of people's lives, that even, top athletes who have a lot of money are still going to be affected just as much as you and me could, depending on how we act. And, the leagues are struggling because they really, even if it means, not having fans, which is really, in most regards, the most important aspect of sports, is to entertain fans in a setting. That's what stadiums are built for. That's what, the audiences are waiting for, to hear a crowd erupt in elation or in disappointment about a situation they're seeing, and trying to escape the reality around them to enjoy just that one moment of a game. And it can't happen because the reality of the situation around them is too big. And so what that does is, these leagues are suffering at, like I said, at the hands of this virus in a very impactful way that is causing us to really not be able to truly enjoy it. We're really still, I think a lot of people are still worried about what this is doing. And some people think maybe sports should not have come back, or it shouldn't have come back the way it did, at least the MLB in their plan, or, that there's other things, that all that testing that players are getting could be going to, depending on, on how you want to view the situation. So I think it's making the situation more complicated for everybody. And it's become a point of maybe contention between people, that, some people think, I've waited 4 months to try to have a moment where I don't have to think about the world burning around us. Let me enjoy some sports. And on the other hand, you have someone who is looking at the amount of attention that these players, that these staff members, that these sports figures and managers and leagues are the number of resources that they're using to try to make sure this thing actually runs and is operational, but is costing a lot of resources to, let's say, I don't know, a frontline worker who doesn't have PPE, or school systems that don't have the money, And I get it that, everyone, and I really do mean everyone, end over end, if you're, no matter what kind of business, no matter what kind of occupation you have, every single aspect of everyone's lives at this point, in one way or another, is losing money because of this situation. So, everyone's trying to recoup, everyone's trying to make something, whether it be TV deals and advertisements, or trying to, get the right number of taxes for your school system, or whatever it may be. Or even, I am involved in a church, and, since some people have stopped working, some people can't, give an offering or a tithe at a church service. That also affects the operations of, a church organization, a religious organization. So everyone's being affected negatively financially by this situation. And I think everyone's just trying to figure out the best way to try to survive, honestly. I've seen a number of businesses go down already. I see ads on Facebook for people who are selling all of their catering and restaurant equipment because they just can't make ends meet and have to liquidate and cut their losses as much as they can. It's an unfortunate situation to be in, but like, the world right now is losing money end over end, and it's affecting a lot of different things.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, we see it in more, as you said, we see it in more than just sports. We see it in more than just entertainment or going out to eat. We see it in everyday businesses, in family, mom and pop shops. People don't have the means to pay for their brick and mortar. And so increasingly people are looking out to Amazon and other online retailers to get their daily gubbins. However, I can't help but think we need to find some kind of way to, as a community, keep these community mom and pop shops afloat. Is there any way that you can think of that we can do this without directly involving ourselves?
I don't know. And I think the real issue is no one likes to look as if they don't know, especially politicians and leaders of companies. They don't like to look like they don't have an idea about how to fix this. But I truly believe that we're all drawing blanks almost at every facet, because, I don't know how to make money to help someone else that isn't going to cost me money. And, obviously to do it, I can try to sell food, but how much is that going to help? I don't know, a school system. I can try to, start a GoFundMe, but everyone's strapped for cash right now and struggling even to feed themselves sometimes. The leagues could say, hey, we're not going to play this season, but you also got to remember, no matter how big some of these contracts are for some of these players, there are also people who are just scraping by, who don't have that much money, and probably need this season to go on for them to, make whatever they need to live. And like I said, it goes to every single facet. It's, I'm sure that everyone wants to volunteer and help everyone out, but we live in a world that, things cost money. Things aren't free. Like you said, brick and mortar stores aren't free. There's mortgage and rent to pay. There's things that need to be fixed. That, like I said, the technology that isn't there for some school systems, even in this state, which has an incredible educational infrastructure, top 5 in the country at least, possibly top 3, and there are still places that don't have the correct, the adequate infrastructure to go completely online and feel comfortable. Everyone's trying to adapt. Everyone's trying to help each other out, and thankfully there's still good signs coming from humanity where people are doing the best they can to help each other out. But still, you comes to the bottom line. Everything costs money, and there isn't a lot of it to go around in the general public. I mean, apparently there's a coin shortage.
There was also a corn shortage.
Right. I mean, think about it. Farmers in this country are getting hit hard too.
Well, corn, if you do not know, is the only crop grown in all 50 states. And there's a shortage of it. And I've been told that it was due to the massive amounts of downpour that we saw over the United States in the last several months. However, it takes its toll, not only on people looking to get some corn for a Memorial Day picnic. I still have never figured out the difference between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Right now, in the middle of both of them, could not tell you which one happened and which one is going to happen in a month. I don't know. You're talking to the wrong person about this. I know nothing. With that in mind, that I know nothing, I still think that this entire disease and epidemic going on it is taking its toll, and it has taken its toll. Pardon me. And it will continue to take its toll. I think it is, as I said with the MLB, as I said with anything, it's near foolish and completely, utterly short-sighted to try to resume life as it was. There's not going to be, at this rate, there will never be life as it was. We will talk about 2019 of all years as the good old days. Would you really want 2019 to be the good old days? I have fond memories of 2019. Lovely days out, lovely days in, times with the friends, times with the families, but I don't want to think of 2019 as the last good days.
Or people are thinking that 2016 looks good in comparison now. For how bad 2016 was, as you know, in the world.
Hey, look back at 1999, the year I was born, the worst possible year. The only thing that made 1999 good
was my birth.
Well, yeah, but and let me turn around because I rehearsed this. Give me a second. The 1999 Grammy Award-winning hit "Smooth" by Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20 and Santana off the hit album Supernatural. That's the only thing good to come out of 1999. The 1999 Grammy Award-winning hit "Smooth" featuring Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20 and Santana off of the album Supernatural. That's the only good thing that came out of 2020. I literally have a t-shirt that says all of those words in that exact order, not some random scrambled one, in my laundry that I haven't done in like 2 months because of this pandemic. That's why I haven't done my laundry. It's not because I'm lazy. Look, This shirt, bought it new from Target. It's nice. It smells nice. It smells like a rack. I don't have to do my laundry. It's almost cheaper to buy white t-shirts and black t-shirts and burgundy crimson t-shirts than it is to actually do your laundry these days. It's ridiculous.
I have long held a suspicion, this is somewhat related, but I have long held a suspicion that I'm going to be part of a generation that is not going to see, or at least is most likely for the majority of the people in it, not going to see a retirement. I just feel like that the way things are going economically, there's going to be something that's just going to hold us down under debt, whether it be student debt, whether it be, just taxes that are just riding us up a wall and making us have to keep on working because the entire country is in debt. And I don't know. And this is a country that apparently has a faction of Democrats who want universal basic income.
Well, correct. No, and I agree with you. However, I don't believe it's necessarily we won't see a retirement for those reasons. I have my very unpopular opinions over different things, which I will not share now, as this is not the platform nor the time to go into my opinions about things. However, I will say that there should be an entire episode dedicated to why Social Security is a scam and why all your investments should be privatized. For those who do not know of how Social Security works, every single paycheck you get, you pay to the government. You pay to the government for, it's essentially bonus tax dollars for them. And then when you retire, they go, yeah, we'll give them this much a month. And then they shell some of it back out to you. But it is not nearly the amount you pay. If you were to make a IRA, an independent retirement account, it would pay dividends more than Social Security. Social Security will fall apart in a number of years because of the baby boom, because of, pardon me, because of all of the upsurge of babies that we saw born in the 1970s, that by the time we get to anybody born in the 80s, 90s, and I'm not even going to mention people born in the aughts, because it's going to be long gone before you get to 65, you got nothing. There's nothing left in the tank. There's not enough people feeding in. Nobody's putting out, there's a line by Harvey Danger, and I can't remember what it is, but it's off of Flagpole Sitta, a fine song, but it belongs in the 90s. And it says something about I see only the something reproducing. And I really give that song a listen. I think that specific lyric will resonate. If you listen to it, you care. If you don't listen to it, you don't. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Social Security was created. I think the first age was supposed to be 65. That was the first when you were supposed to be receiving Social Security back after you retire, technically. And the age, the lifespan of the average American at that point when it was created was 62. So
now, Gerald, actually, give me an A, B, C, or D option for the average lifespan of an American today, and I will take. Welcome to Gerald's daily trivia question for Corey.
All right. Okay.
We don't have a banner for that, and we'll work on the name, but that's what we got right now.
Yeah. So, like you said, the average life expectancy in the U.S. right now today, Corey, is it A, 73 years old, B, 85 years old, C, 76 years old, or D, 78 years old?
Well, I've only heard of like 3 people in my life living to like their 80s, so I'm going to rule out whatever that one was. I mean, you die if you're either 83 or you're like 96. As soon as you're in that home stretch, you're good for a decade. There's nothing to worry about. All right. So my options are 73, 76, and 78.
Correct.
73 seems way too young. I'm going to hit a dinger and go for D, 78.
You sure you hit that dinger well?
Yeah, or it's a pop out.
No, it's a dinger. You got it right on the money. 78 years old. To be exact, it's actually 78.54.
Hey, Gerald, catch that ball.
Can't do it.
No, you got to catch it. It's coming to you. Look up.
Fell off my head.
No.
Bounced back into the crowd.
I hit that ball about 30 miles. You guys should have seen the way that came off the bat. 70.5 years.
Right. That is the life expectancy right now. So do not be surprised.
Oh, my goodness.
When your age bracket for Social Security goes up to 78 years old for retirement, everybody. Just saying.
Yeah, 65 is what it is now until the government catches on and they start to get like, oh, wait, 65 is like not as late as it used to be. Well, and also 65 was made when the lifespan was 63, right?
62 around there.
So, hey, don't be surprised when you collect Social Security at 80.
If
Put that out there. If
you make it there.
Security sticks around long enough. Now, in the span, if we have a very slow politics week and we just have time to cover a couple things, let us know in the comments what you want to hear. I was thinking that we could do a little history episode. We could feature something about like a Social Security or about one of those Federal Reserve, something that you guys want to hear about. If you have an opinion and you want to listen to something, please let us know in the comments, because then we can do our thorough research, have our preconceived notions as well, and then also learn based off of that, and we can factor that into your next viewing experience. But please give something, if you give nothing,
right.
Cool. Thank you for watching. That's all I can say to you.
Fair enough. And right now we're going to shift over to really our main thing that we are going to focus on for the rest of our, for the rest of the year, basically, even after it's done, is election 2020. And we still just, to take note of it, we still don't know who Vice President Joe Biden is going to bill as his vice presidential pick for the ballot. Odds are staying the same.
Well, if you want to hear more in depth, you can check out our last episode, and I believe it was the third or fourth segment in which we covered most of the Veep picks. Watch that episode. We had it. We covered it. Nothing new had come up. But Gerald, I would bug you to bring open that Road to 270 map again, because I would like to retract is the better word, the assumption that I had made about the table last week on the race. Okay, can you wipe it for me? All right. So give me the safes. Alaska red.
Hawaii blue.
West
California
Coast blue.
New York blue.
Yeah.
Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, DC, and Colorado, Illinois. New Mexico, Illinois, and I believe that's right. That's all the safe blue, safe blue ones. Nevada as well. And the red ones safe are Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri. We also have Kentucky, Indiana, because the vice president is from there.
Yep.
And Tennessee, West Virginia, and South Carolina, Alabama, and Mississippi. Now, those are all the safe states that we have for the most part.
Right.
And
I would like to offer a redaction to my thing last week. This is going to follow around the same ish. I'm under the impression Arizona is going to go red. I would bet my life that Texas and Florida both go red.
All right.
Georgia is also in tail with Florida as red.
There you go.
North Carolina will go blue, as well as Virginia.
All right.
Pennsylvania will go blue.
Okay.
Sorry, Pennsylvania will go red. That was my redaction. Pennsylvania is going red.
Okay. I see. All right. Yep. And what's your view on Ohio?
I think Ohio. I know Ohio. I have family. I think it's red. I think Ohio is going red.
I think so as well, if I'm being honest.
And then give the field to blue.
Including Iowa?
No. Sorry. Iowa is red. Iowa has one major city. Iowa City.
Right.
Yeah.
Des Moines.
Des Moines,
Or
Des Moines, Iowa is where is Iowa or Iowa State in Des Moines.
I don't remember.
One of them. That is my new consideration. My redaction was I put Pennsylvania as a blue state where Pennsylvania should be a red state. I also believe I considered Arizona to be blue, whereas Arizona would most likely, in my opinion, float red.
It's still floating. That is going to be. I personally believe Arizona is, along with probably one other state. I'm not exactly sure which other one it is specifically yet, but Arizona and another state are going to be the two that determine the presidency of the United States. Honestly, whether it takes
Arizona has 11 electoral college votes is mind-boggling to me. I did not expect them to have that many.
Well, you got to remember Phoenix and Albuquerque. No, Albuquerque's New Mexico. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phoenix, and I think there seems to be, based on data, and I'll talk about this in a second, but based on data and some studies, there seems to be a growing number of people who are moving to more urbanized areas instead of staying in the suburbs or going away from urban areas. So population centers are growing, and when population centers grow, usually they become more
liberal. Correct.
They do. They become more liberal. And I am going to, I'm not really, I'm not supposed to say this because I'm going to be seeing people doing this anyway. I am currently already sworn in. I am a census enumerator this year. And this year's census, I believe, is one of the most important ones we've ever seen, not just because of COVID and everything, but I do believe there have been some pretty seismic shifts in population centers in the country these last 10 years. And these numbers, I believe, with reapportionment and everything that's going to happen, are going to change most likely. There's a chance Georgia, because of the growth of Atlanta and other urban areas in Georgia, will have as many electoral votes as does Ohio. There's a chance, because you have noted there are people moving out of Maryland because of the taxes and going to Florida. Florida can jump up to 31
droves.
Right. Florida can jump up to 31 electoral votes. People in New York are not. New York isn't growing; it's maintaining its population, but it could end up, because of that, losing some electoral power.
I disagree. I think that New York is losing population. I was not sure of the last count read, but on my desk as a legislative assistant in the Maryland House of Delegates, I received a pamphlet, or rather a quite, half an inch thick book, maybe an inch thick, of the different states and who's moving out. And New York is losing people just as much as Maryland is. And it's New York State, because New York State has the same exact laws and same exact taxes as New York City. So people are moving into New York City and moving out from New York in general. And everybody is moving into Florida. I would be shocked if I did not see 33 electoral college votes in Florida.
You also got to remember that the way the electoral college works with the Reapportionment Act, it means that the number of electoral votes that exist, it's not that they grow and add on to the number of representatives or anything. No, it stays the same. It is a fixed number, so it has to be rearranged. That's why I'm saying if Florida gets something and Georgia gets something, they're taking it from somewhere. And I think New York is going to lose some. Maryland could lose some. Virginia could possibly gain some because of the growth of Nova. And other places could lose their electoral counts as well. Maybe Illinois. I don't know what the data is showing around Chicago and Illinois as a state in general, but they could possibly lose some voting power. Massachusetts could also lose voting power, electoral voting power rather. And who knows about California? Because LA is huge and it's the biggest state in terms of population, but you don't know how much they've maintained, how much they've lost, or how much they've gained.
Well, the greater Los Angeles area is quite large. However, here's a little fun fact for you. Here is Corey's fun facts quiz against Gerald of the week. We'll figure out a better name for that. Gerald, what is the largest United States city by land mass, by square footage, by square miles, we'll say? Is it Los Angeles? Is it Jacksonville? Is it Des Moines, Iowa? Or is it Austin, Texas?
Um, huh.
You got to eliminate one.
All right, I'm taking out Austin, Texas.
All right. You got three more: Los Angeles, Des Moines, and Jacksonville.
Des Moines out as well, because even though there's probably is a large spread of people in the area and in what would be, I guess, a metropolitan area, I still think it
square mileage.
Yeah, but I still think it'd be lower than Los Angeles or Jacksonville. I'm tempted to say Los Angeles, but I feel like that's a getcha question. So I'm gonna go with Jacksonville.
You are correct. Jacksonville is the largest city in the United States by square mileage. Jacksonville, the only time we will ever shout out Jacksonville. Wait till
Shout out Jacksonville.
We're going to go 0-16. Congratulations, anybody who's from Jacksonville. And nobody is, but hey, you should be, because it's the largest city by square mileage.
They got the space. They got the space to take you in.
Fort Lauderdale, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that right off the coast of it? They literally have the space. They can take you to space.
Well, in any case, but thinking about it, I think there are going to be, like I said, there's going to be some seismic shifts in the reapportionment of the electoral votes and the representation in Congress. That would mean the representation in Congress will shift. New York would lose again seats. Maryland would lose seats, and then Florida, Georgia would gain them. Texas is, I think, going up by one electoral vote is a projection that I saw somewhere. So it'd be 39 electoral votes. And I attribute that to the growing populations in Houston and San Antonio, which are growing quickly. I think Houston is the fastest growing metropolitan center in the country.
I don't know why. No offense to anybody living in Houston, but that's not top 20 on cities I would like to move to.
That is also what is causing this, the potential for a Texas switch. Last time I checked, there haven't been any recent presidential polls, but based on the last presidential polls, every single result that is given is within the 2-point margin of error. So Texas is technically virtually tied in polling right now. Now, history has shown us that most likely, like I mentioned last time, there is a conservative voting bloc, an evangelical voting bloc, and a religious voting bloc that seem to be very unified and very present during election day.
And they also historically do not poll.
This is also true.
Now, for my own sake, what are the numbers here up in the...
You got a close one. 274, 264.
And that's what I think. If it doesn't come down to that, here, I'll tell you what. If you're watching this, put down your name or something, or your email or something, and if it gets to that ill-fated, about 2 months ago we talked about it. We both projected polls and we looked up, and it came down 269 to 269. If it comes down to that, and you put your name down now, you'll get something. I don't know, a T-shirt, something.
We'll buy. Hey, we'll order a T-shirt for you.
You can have one of my old T-shirts. Not actually. I like them, but
I was about to say you would better wash them before giving those out.
We'll get a special order printed T-shirt. Yeah, you just comment, you get something. If it's 269, 269, we will get that. But I think this looks realistic.
No,
The
like yeah,
only thing that I could possibly see changing is a swing vote is the one district in Maine and the one district in Nebraska. That's it. I believe
but they even themselves out anyway.
themselves out. There's always a thought that Norcacolaka could swing red, although not likely. There's a thought that, well, Virginia, here, I'll tell you this. California, Virginia, Oregon, and Washington, Colorado, and any of the New England states will never swing red from this point on to the end of the election. They are not swinging red. They are safe. Michigan is 100% safe. Illinois is 100% safe. I believe your only toss-ups are in Wisconsin, and these aren't even toss-ups, mind you. These are states that might find a way throughout whatever magic.
Competitive. Competitive is a good word for it.
Competitive is Wisconsin, Minnesota, and New Mexico. Now, Alaska and Hawaii are never changing their ways. Alaska is their country. They're Canada, but country. It's snowy. It's black for half of the year. You can't see anything.
It's the frontier.
It's the last frontier of the entire world. That's the edge of the world, is Alaska. No offense to Alaskan viewers out there, but hey, take this in solace. You live on the end of the world. In Hawaii, that's a beautiful place. Everybody says, oh, you know where I want to live? Hawaii. Nobody says, hey, you know where I want to live? Wisconsin. If you have money, if you can afford it, you move out to Hawaii. And if you have money and you're good like that, you're going to vote blue. That's just how it works as soon as you're out there. You get no cares in the world. You think, oh, man, I could get used to this. Whatever is, it'll do. But I think the only swings we can see here are the ones that I've put up. I could also see Arizona and PA as swings, and those are the ones that I put out as red. However, I can see these going in ways. Ohio is another one that I could very, very possibly see. But that would just be dominated by the urban areas. But without that, what is the count?
Without all of that, it's 249, 215. Which seems to be, at least in terms of population and demographics and everything, seems to be about proportional what Democrats are to Republicans in general. Not about who actually goes out to vote, but, definitely, I think, proportional to the population of declared registered voters, party voters, and all that. So, yeah, I think, you're definitely right about the swing states. I still think just by its nature and the ever shifting demographics, not shifting demographic, but the ever shifting population, the demographics stay about proportionally the same. But the shifting population of Florida will always make it a swing state and always make it competitive.
Yeah, I just disagree on the sole fact of who we see moving to which state and why. And in the last 10 years, well, honestly, and through what I've heard, and it might just be my coming of an adult as opposed to me being an adolescent or a teenager or a child, however it works, I see more people moving out of Maryland and to Florida, not because of the nice weather, but to escape the income tax and to escape the horrendous property taxes. So we see people escaping from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and in Maryland, just escaping the property taxes.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, Florida is a tax haven. It's good for people who want to get away from so much money being taken out of what they make and what they earn. And there they can buy a reasonable plot of land or a house or a trailer or whatever, what have you, and live off of what you make instead of struggling off of what you make because of how much gets taken out in taxes.
Right. Well,
And
and go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, it's you.
Um, and yeah, and look, I've been to Florida. It's nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
St. Pete, not in the city, but off the beaches, beautiful.
I've been Port Charlotte, around Tampa. Very nice. Some of the houses have boat spaces. If I think the appeal of Florida is that because there's less taxes and because you get to keep a lot more of your money, you enjoy yourself more just naturally, and the weather's for the most part nicer. And you get one or two hurricanes here or there. You live with it. You put some shutters on the windows, you're fine.
Well, I'll say this. People say money can't buy happiness, but not having money can make you sure of a hell more sad.
I agree with that.
Well,
if I may, I'm
go
gonna
ahead. Yeah, you.
reset this so that I can set myself up to see what I'm thinking could happen in the election. But you can go ahead and whatever comment you were gonna make, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. This will fill in. You can put me on the big screen and I can tell everybody while you do your work. So this is your weekly reminder. If you're not registered to vote, please go out, register to vote. You can do it if you're a Maryland resident. You can do it right on the DMV website. You give your address, whatever vitals you need, and you get registered. They send you a voter ID card if you are of the Republican, if you're of the Democrat Party, if you're of, like myself, an other party, you get registered. You do your thing, you get a card, and you just take that and your license, and you go and you vote. Now, it is November 3rd this year. I believe, Gerald, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
November 3rd, 2020. Write that date down. If you intend to vote in person, November 3rd is your day. If you intend to mail in your ballot, it takes 2 weeks minimum each way. Or I believe it's 2 weeks maximum. So give yourself some time to make it happen, but assure that you have that good time to make sure that your vote is counted. As we said last episode, if you're a Democrat and you don't like Joe Biden, vote for anybody else. If you're a Republican and you don't like Donald Trump, vote for anybody else. If you're a third party, if you're if you're unaffiliated, it doesn't matter. Vote for somebody else. Vote your conscience. And nobody can stress that enough as I do. It doesn't matter if you think that they'll win. Enough people are voting because they think it'll win. That's enough. It's enough with identity politics. It's enough thinking, hey, I'm going to vote for this guy so he has a leg up on the other. Because you know what? If you go out and you vote red, well, then if I go and I vote blue, then your and my vote don't matter. They cancel each other out. It doesn't mean anything. We each voted for a person. It doesn't matter. But if you go out there and you vote your heart, if you think, I very much believe in Donald Trump, or I very much believe in Joe Biden, or I very much believe in Joe Jorgensen, or a number of the third-party candidates we have out here, if you truly believe that in your heart of hearts, if you believe in Bernie Sanders still today, vote. Vote your pleasure for either of these two. Vote your displeasure against these two, however you feel it. Put in somebody that you are willing to stand behind and go out on your shield for. And if you don't feel like you really care about voting, try to care. That's all I can say. Because the next 4 years, if you don't vote, I'm not going to blame you. I'm not going to blame anybody. It comes down to a modern conscience. It's whoever voted who. It doesn't matter. If your friends are all telling you to vote for one person and you don't want to, don't vote for that person and tell them you did. It's what it is. You do your thing. You vote vote your heart. The one thing you've had your entire life is your gut. If you have your gut with you, vote it. Go out, go to the poll. You sit there in front of a piece of paper with a pen. You write your name and you fill in a dot. Go there. Do that. It's that easy. Please, I beg you, go vote. Gerald, can we see how that thing is looking?
Yeah, definitely. This is what I have so far. This is what I think. I think, like I said, probably again, I said Arizona is going to be one of the two states that decides really, that really solidifies the decision the country has made in terms of who they want as the president. I'm thinking one of the other ones is going to be either North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, or Pennsylvania. And at this moment right now, I truly think, well, actually, let me put it up. I was thinking about it. I still think that there's one congressional district that's going to go red in Maine, but I don't think that there's one congressional district that's going to go blue in Nebraska. I actually think, um, uh, just honestly on a hunch, that the whole state is going to stay red. So 5 out of 5 electoral votes of Nebraska going to uh, the uh, Republican side of the ticket. In this, I guess, situation, I see, and this is just today, I still think there's a chance, like you said, I agree with you that there's a chance that Pennsylvania is going to swing back to Donald Trump's side, even though there might be some mine workers or some industry workers who might not have reaped what they thought they were going to sow. I mean, might not have, reaped what they thought was being sown by voting for Donald Trump. But I think they still want to believe in the idea that he is going to bring their industry back, and to an extent, he is. And I think that's gonna resonate with that population. Like I said, I don't think I'm ready for Georgia or Texas in this election. To go blue. Not that I'd say I'd be extremely surprised if they do. It'd be surprising in and of itself, but either way that Georgia and Texas are going to go, I think there's just enough people who are going to make the trend continue being deep red safe states. Although it's going to be much closer of a battle. They're not safe states by any means. But I do still think they're going to end up going red. North Carolina is still a bit of a toss-up, and even though it is leaning blue, I still think, again, the religious voting bloc is going to come out, and they're going to, for the most part, support the Republican ticket, which means they're going to vote for Donald Trump. So I'm going to put them red. And like you said, Florida. I think... based on the population that's going there, the population that is aging there, and I'll be honest, I don't think the population centers are growing. I don't think Miami's growing. I don't think
Miami is growing as much as Miami is losing from people getting older than 28 and settling down anywhere else.
Right. So it'll offset itself, and it's not that it's this giant. There is a Democratic bloc in Miami, but it doesn't mean that that this is going to drive the state blue like it has before in other situations. That's why Florida is always so hard. And I think recently taking some surveys or looking at some surveys that were taken in the demographic field shows that actually, right now Joe Biden is leading among young voters and African American voters and college educated voters. But Donald Trump is leading among older white males. And surprisingly enough, he is outperforming Joe Biden on the Hispanic side of the demographic. And I have always held true to the belief, in my personal opinion, if it weren't for the immigration issue, every single Hispanic immigrant in this country would be a Republican.
Absolutely.
Because there's a deep rooted, especially even most of the, I'll say about 55 to 60% of the newer generation of people who are growing up in Latin America or coming here as immigrants from Latin America or from Hispanic nations, they still hold a majority of conservative views for the most part. I think there's a deep rooted Catholicism is deep rooted in the cultures and ingrained in the cultures of these Latin American countries, and all of the conservative viewpoints that come with that. And so I think if Donald Trump can continue to outperform Joe Biden on the Hispanic front, it's gonna make the difference in Florida, and I think it's gonna go red. Arizona.
Well, hold
Uh,
on, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to pitch in. I don't disagree with you at any point. I think that, as you said, if immigration weren't an issue, then Latin Americans, any Hispanics Americans would be Republican. And I agree with. I think that the diagnosis of how this works goes a long way. And also, as you were stating, with a lot of people who migrate to America, whether they're coming from Colombia or from Venezuela, is you have countries who either need a stronger government presence, as Colombia has not been faring the best for it, or Venezuela, where it needs less of a government like coverage over the entire country, as we've seen what has happened and ravaged the streets of Venezuela of rampant. I don't have a better word that is less accurate than socialism. Venezuela has ruined their entire country by giving everybody everything, and they have no means of paying for it.
It's
And
not
so,
even that they've given everybody. It used to be that. I'll be honest. It used to be that way. It used when Hugo Chavez was the leader. He was no angel by any means. He was not a good person.
no,
But when he was there, he made it at least look like to the people that he was giving them what they needed and supplying for them. The new guy, Nicolas Maduro, who is the new leader, handpicked by Chavez right before his death and all that. Um, it didn't help him that as soon as he took over, oil prices crashed, and you know, basically OPEC started waking up from its hibernation of not acting up, and all that. So it's just all of that ended up turning really bad on the country that, by the way, still continues to have the biggest oil reserves in the world. And look, the leaders are actually living fine, but the people they don't have money. They don't have enough.
poverty.
And the problem is
Not only are they in poverty, but they are in constant fear of their own safety. On the streets, the only reason we have not heard of this in the last 6 months is because the news got tired of it. Is because, we've been dealing with this for 3 years. Venezuela is in trouble.
and not only that, the problem is also that the leader is so inept, he actually decided to just start printing money. He has hyperinflation. I'm talking
Madagascar levels or Zimbabwe levels.
pre-Nazi Germany levels of hyperinflation.
Oh,
It
Zimbabwe
is
levels of saying, "Hey, we're out of money. Let's print it," and then one American dollar is worth 34 trillion Zimbabwe's.
it is insane, but it's happening, and it means that people can't afford food, can't afford. There are people who are having to make new holes in their belts because they're too skinny. There's people who don't have the medicine that they need. There's people who are suffering, and the leaders are getting expensive watches and taking trips on what is deemed to be tax money, and getting assistance from other communist and socialist nations because they sell the oil, but they keep all the money for themselves. I mean, it is an awful situation in Venezuela right now, and anyone coming from Venezuela here, this is going to be heaven for them. No matter how tumultuous a political situation might be here, there is no constitutional crisis going on right now. There's two people in Venezuela claiming to be the legitimate president, and really, no one really knows which one is actually the the legitimate president.
That's just like the United States in 2016.
No, it's worse. It's worse because their constitution is so complicated.
I don't speak Spanish, so I couldn't bother.
Fair enough. But anyway, all this being said, the Hispanic population coming out for Donald Trump is probably what's going to make the difference in Florida. And that leaves me with Arizona. And I think there isn't enough Spanish population, and if there is a Spanish population there, it's actually this newer wave, this newer generation that are, United States socially aware, more democratic leaning, young Hispanic people, like in Phoenix, and people around the border who don't like what the president has done, most likely, and people who probably have family in other parts that feel like they're undermined. And there's a lot more, I would say, liberal Hispanics in Arizona right now. I mean, that's where Julian Castro was from. He was the mayor of Phoenix. He was the keynote address speaker in 2012 DNC. And honestly, I thought he was going to be Hillary Clinton's vice presidential pick until Tim Kaine came in and decided to be the most boring vice president of all time, or vice presidential candidate of all time. With the worst
of a vice presidential candidate is to be boring.
I think John Oliver put it perfectly. He was the picture that came with the frame of a vice president.
Gerald, another Corey quiz moment. With no right answer, but a lot of wrong answers. Can you name one interesting vice president?
Al Gore. He's interesting for what he did after he lost the election.
Was Al Gore vice president? Vice president.
Vice President Al Gore.
Oh, he was vice president under Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My memory fudged me. He was interesting because of that 2000 election. Nothing else. Nothing about Al Gore.
Well, and then his response to it was basically, well, since you guys didn't elect me, the planet's going to die.
Wait, wasn't Al Gore the guy who got caught in that parasailing commercial?
Was he?
Al Gore is caught in... No, he was the one with the kitchen appliance commercial. Yes. That's what it was. Yes, yeah. Oh my goodness. Al Gore.
Either way, Arizona, in my opinion, is going to actually be the state that switches. And it is going to go blue this election cycle.
Okay.
So all that being said, this looks like a very reasonable map.
Well, North Carolina versus Arizona are only points of contention.
Right. And let's scroll up to look.
Also, are you allowing Nebraska to go full red, or are you giving them that one district?
No, I'm allowing them to go full red. I think I kind of thought about it. I'm banking on that college-educated younger vote that's going to be there. But then again, the college in Nebraska, the population that there is still pretty conservative in itself.
Also, the world's college with the most alumni ever is the Pennsylvania State University, and they went red last year.
That is true.
Pennsylvania with Pittsburgh, Philly, and Penn State right in the middle went red.
I mean, yeah, you gotta think about what the actual population of a school is instead of just thinking, oh, it's a university, they'll go blue. You can't bank on anything at this point with any of these demographics going on. I mean, most Democrats think they're a shoo-in for getting the Hispanic vote, but like I said, they're being outperformed by Donald J. Trump. So, all that being said, a reasonable looking map on what will happen on election night. We scroll up to see the numbers. Oh, looky here. We have the nightmare scenario for our nation.
Oh, hey, as I said, if 269 comes to 269, you have about until the next podcast comes out, a week. If you're a day one viewer, if you just started watching this episode, clock in, put something down, put your prediction for how the votes are going to go for the Electoral College. And if you agree, if you don't agree, put something so we can reach you. And if it goes 269, you get a free t-shirt. We don't have a design, but we'll write one up.
We'll figure it out just for that situation.
Yeah. And just for you.
We'll have a map of the country's the electoral map on the front and our logo on the back. I think that'd be a pretty good design, I think.
No, it'll be the map of however we thought it would turn out, like this, because this was our original go-to. We'll have it like this, like that map right on the front, and then it'll be my name on the front and yours very tiny at the bottom, like on the inseam.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
No, it'll be something. Hey, let us know. Give us your little t-shirt ideas if you agree with the 269. You know what? I'll pause that. If you want to be entered into the 269, give us a t-shirt idea, and if it turns out 269, you get a free one. There we go. And if you are the person who we choose, we'll give you something extra.
Yeah, but I think the biggest point I'm trying to make with all of this is that we are in a situation where the absolute possibility everyone always brings it up as a quirk or a trivia point every single election, but we are in a situation where the reality is that we could actually have a tied electoral college. And that means that whatever the incoming Congress is going to vote for the president as well as the vice president in separate chambers of Congress. So the House of Representatives choose the president, the Senate chooses the vice president, and depending on how the Senate races go, which right now it's technically looks like it's leaning blue, we could potentially be in a situation, where we have a president and a vice president who disagree with each other.
Well, yeah, and as you said, we would have an elected president by the people and an elected vice president by the sitting Senate, correct?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's incoming Senate. But you got to take into account that the House of Representatives doesn't vote as individuals, they vote as states.
Right. Well, I was under the impression that it was the sitting Senate would vote on it, not the incoming.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
give Gerald 1 minute to do research and I'll fill your time with something. So,
right.
The outcomes that we can have here are if we should have the archaic two-party system win over, we would have a Donald Trump, Mike Pence win, a Joe Biden and mystery black woman win as a vice president. As he has said, he will have a black woman as his vice president. We could have a Donald Trump with a mystery black woman vice president, or a Joe Biden with probably Mike Pence vice president. We would have that sort of duel go on. Those are our four options, unless enough people turn the tides to make some random third-party appearance make happen, or vote, a random Harambe president. Even if you don't feel like voting, go out there and vote for your favorite kind of Hostess snack cake. Because if you don't feel like voting enough to go out and vote for somebody, vote for something. Because promise me, if people, trust me, if an elected official sees that you're not voting for them and you're not voting for their opponent, it means both of them are missing the mark. And that is easily a thing that they will see. And we saw it last election, and we see a spread of the board this year. And as little of a spread of the board we have, they've made leaps and bounds from Donald J. Trump versus Hillary Rodham Clinton, which actually not really. Scratch that. They're doing a terrible job. Vote for anybody else if you don't agree with the two. Vote for anybody else. Currently, I haven't given an endorsement, although Jo Jorgensen is running for the Libertarian Party, the first woman looking to be president for the Libertarian Party. Could be the first female president. I don't know. We'll all see on November 3rd.
Jill Stein, by the way, has finally given up her attempts
for the Green Party.
Right, for the Green Party. There's a new Green Party candidate. If that's actually what interests you, go ahead and do your research and pull your vote that way. Now,
I hate to discourage anybody, but as a libertarian, it's almost opposite to the Green Party. I'm 100% sympathetic to all the environmental needs and necessities of the world and all that. The Green Party just kind of loses me once they get outside of that. But if you very much choose to agree with the Green Party, whoever is their candidate, vote. Just vote. Don't vote for Donald Trump because you think you have to. Don't vote for Joe Biden because he's the only guy who can beat Trump. Vote whatever you think. Whatever at the end of the day makes you don't have to feel that you had an impact. You don't have to, you don't even have to think, oh, I made a difference. As long as you can sleep thinking, I voted what I thought was right. That's it. That's all that matters. At the end of the day, you vote for who you want to vote for. That's all I can ask of you. That's it. I can't tell you what to do. I'm just a guy behind a TV screen. You're a person. Go out there and vote. Please. Please.
Right.
Gerald, what do you got for me?
All right. In terms of the what would happen in the procedures of a tie, or if no candidate reaches the 270 mark, which happens in the event of an exact tie, like we have been speculating, or if there's a third party candidate who takes a number of electoral votes to make sure that nobody gets to 270. This is the system that is used. It says, pursuant to the 12th Amendment, the House of Representatives is required to go into session immediately after the counting of the electoral votes to vote for president if no candidate for the office receives a majority of the electoral votes, or, i.e. 270. In this event, the House is limited to choosing from among the three candidates who received the most electoral votes, or the two if there was no other third party that received any more electoral votes. Each state delegation votes en bloc, which with each state having a single vote. A candidate is required to receive an absolute majority of state delegation votes. So currently that would be 26 votes in order for that candidate to become the president-elect. The District of Columbia, which is not a state, does not receive the vote, and the House continues balloting until it elects a president. In terms of the vice president, if no candidate for vice president receives an absolute majority of electoral votes, then the Senate must go into session and elect a vice president. The Senate is limited to choosing from only the two candidates who receive the most electoral votes. Unlike the House, senators can cast votes individually in this election. Additionally, the 12th Amendment states that a majority of the whole number of senators, currently 51 of the 100, is necessary for election. In practical terms, this means that an absence or an abstention from voting is equivalent to a none of the above vote and would impair the ability of both candidates to win the election. The explicit constitutional language about election by a majority of the whole number of senators may preclude the sitting vice president from breaking any tie which might occur, although some academics and journalists have speculated to the contrary.
Yeah. Well, he's the president. As what I get up to right here is, if this is to run into a tie, this is sitting. This is not
because it's
elected.
Right. It says immediate. Yeah, it's the law says immediately reconvening.
Boom. So what we have here is, if this were to come to a 269 nice and 269 nice vote, we would have the House of Representatives, which is a largely blue audience, elect a president, which would be, as ipso facto Columbo Oreo, Joe Biden. Then it would come down to the Senate, sitting Senate, to elect a vice president. And then it would come down to either Mike Pence or whoever Joe Biden elects to be his vice president for the nominee. Now, if it were to reach a dead split in the Senate, if it were to reach 50-50, who would break that tie, Gerald?
Is it Mike Pence?
It's Mike Pence.
I think the whole body
president would break it.
I think did I read that correctly? It said what is it? The explicit constitutional language about the election by a majority of the whole number of senators. What does it mean to preclude? Might include
Yes.
the sitting vice president from breaking any tie which might occur.
Preclude is not allow.
Okay, and I think that's I think that's what they mean, because the last time this happened, or not the last time this happened, but one of the most famous times. Well, there's been a time when the votes were so close. It was the election of Thomas Jefferson versus Aaron Burr, and the Congress had to keep on voting. They voted like something 26 times, because every time you fail to get a majority and anyone makes an abstention, what makes it harder to get that actual majority that is needed by law.
The same thing as having jury duty. You keep going until everybody can reach the same agreement. However, in the Senate, it's until everybody can reach a majority.
Right. And same thing with the state votes that vote en bloc in the House of Representatives. So if someone gets 50 and the other person gets 49 and one state decided to abstain, technically the person who got more votes didn't win, because you need to get 26 states. I mean, like, you know what I meant.
25 and a half.
Yeah, you have to get half plus one of whatever the voting block is, whatever the number is.
25 and a half, because there's 100 senators.
Right. And if let's say a senator decides to abstain and it's 50 to 49, like exactly, again, they're by law required to stay there until they can vote someone in, no matter how long it takes. And that's why I said with Thomas Jefferson, it took about a month of direct voting to try to figure out who the next president of the United States was going to be. And it ended up being, as we know, Thomas Jefferson. But, you never know how things like that are going to shake out, especially with the tumultuous political situation we live in today. So all that's to say, it would be a very 2020 thing to end this election in a tie and have to deal with the aftermath of that. So we'll see how well that works. By the way, if certain things align, we could see the national. And I want to do a segment of this in hopefully our next week's video. The national. Keep this in mind. National Popular Vote Interstate Compact.
It's really not a good, you can't fit that cutely into a bubble.
And I think that's the point, to try to hide it as just make it look like boring, paperwork type thing. But it's a very interesting thing. The constitutional right of the states is that you have, states have the right to cast their votes any which way they seem fit in terms of the Electoral College.
It has been deemed constitutionally legal, correct?
Constitutionally legal, yes.
Yep.
And so with that being said, there are a group of states that have enacted laws in their state that say they will cast their votes the way that the national popular vote goes. So they would cast their votes.
How many? Hold on. Let me take a multiple choice without even a multiple choice. How many states said this? Do you have any idea?
There are states that have this enacted already.
How many?
You want me to just tell you?
No. Tell me how many, and then I will guess a good amount of them.
Okay, it's going to be.
Corey,
16 states right now.
Alabama. I'm going to go alphabetically. Alabama.
No.
All right, I'm gonna give another try. Arkansas. Oh, the national vote.
Right. These are people who would.
California.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Colorado,
Yes.
Connecticut,
Yes.
Delaware,
Yes.
Hawaii,
Yes.
Illinois.
Yes.
These are all in order, right? The way that I'm putting them out.
Not exactly in order, but they're all on the list.
New York.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I know it's not Maryland. Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey.
No, well, say it the right way. Come on.
Jersey.
Jersey. Massachusetts.
That is correct.
Well, you're lucky I didn't say Connecticut as Connecticut.
All right.
Oregon.
Yes.
Washington.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that all? How many am I missing?
You're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
How many of them are New England?
Of the ones that are left, 2.
Yeah. 2? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I got 3 left who aren't New England.
Correct.
Michigan.
No.
No. Ooh, that's 2 strikes against me. I've gotten 2 wrong already starting. All right. I got 1 strike. Whoa. Oh, that's rancid. Dropped my computer. All right. I apologize to any viewers who suffered
Do be careful.
vertigo. Yeah.
Ah.
All right. So I have guests left in 5 states. 5 states?
Yep.
Ooh.
2 of
New
them.
Hampshire.
2 of them are in Rhode Island. No, that is incorrect.
Wait, 2 of them are in Rhode Island. That's what
Not
you
in
said.
Rhode Island. In New England. I
You
gave
said
you one
Rhode
of the
Island.
answers. Yeah, Rhode Island is
All
one
right.
of them.
I got 5 left. Let me give a gubbins. I
Well, you
got
got
Rhode
4
Island.
left now.
Yeah. Rhode Island. Not Wisconsin. Nevada. No, it's New Mexico is one of them.
Correct.
Yeah. Virginia.
Actually, no.
No. North Carolina.
No.
No. Then it's got to be Great Lakes for the rest of them, right?
No.
Well, then what is it?
All right. The ones you were missing, you got Rhode Island and New Mexico. You didn't get Vermont.
Oh, I forgot that was a state.
so do
No,
many
seriously.
people.
I'm not even lying. That they have been in Jerry's, right? Didn't Fish come from Vermont? The band
Something
Fish.
like-
I've seen them
something
13
like that.
times. I've seen them 13 times live. I have not known ever where Fish is from.
Anyway, you missed Vermont.
Of course,
You
I miss
missed-
Vermont.
You
Does
missed
anybody make Vermont? Does anybody say, "Yeah, I picked Vermont"?
You missed DC.
That's not a state. Come on.
It has electoral votes.
Hey, you lied to me here. You said state. Come on. You're wrong.
And you missed one. The first state to actually ever enact this law into state law.
The first state.
That
What-
enacted this law.
What time is it there now? Right now in Maryland, it's 11:25.
Well, it's 11:25 in this state.
Maine?
No.
I'm off. I don't know.
It's Maryland.
What? Maryland? What? Oh,
Well, Maryland was the first one to ever enact this into law, and guess who signed it into law?
who?
Martin O'Malley.
Didn't Mom do enough?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about this.
Political
All-
thing
All of these states combined with their electoral power combined have 196 electoral votes dedicated to the national popular vote. Now, that is not enough to get to 270. It is quite a lot, but the law isn't enacted until there is a large enough coalition that can control 270. And right now, there are states with laws pending that would bring the total up to, I believe it is 262.
Oh,
So
not nice.
eight electoral votes off of this, super block basically of electoral college votes.
Well, if it comes down to 269, you know who to look out to. We called it here first.
Either way, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact becomes enacted when enough states have laws in their legislature that are passed and approved that they will cast their votes in accordance to the national popular vote, regardless of state vote.
I honestly, and look, I'm gonna all my cards out on the table here, if you don't mind. I have voted Republican for many people. I have voted Democrat for many people in the 2018 elections. I've put many people down regardless of I've voted in many libertarians. I've tried to write in and voted for. However, I do believe that the interstate compact that we see with the national vote only serves to hurt the people. As it comes down to it, the reason why we have the electoral college is so that it focuses on everybody in America and not just those focused on urban areas. Now, most people, as we see, live in urban areas, and if the urban areas had every law made for them, then there would be a decrease in property tax or an increase in property tax per square foot. So then they wouldn't have to pay much. But then the people who own acres would pay more. There's always a give and take. It's never how it is. It's never just, it's good for me, then it's got to be good for everybody. So I see this as a takeaway. I think, you're Maryland, your state finally I say finally, as in after a period of time, flips red. And, no, sorry, it's too close. None of your votes count, by the way. Nobody who voted Democrat, none of your votes count. Nobody who voted Republican votes count. We're going blue because the rest of the country did also. I think that's really low. I don't think it's a state position. I think that's really looking after the parties. I don't see it as a state position. I think as soon as you put national in front of everything that a state is supposed to do, you've lost the state's respect. You're a national party now. That's all it is. You're serving the party.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can see that point. There are also, people who argue for this program because they want to make sure that there isn't the possibility of someone being elected with anything less than the majority of people who voted, which has happened 4 times in our country's history. So,
well, I guess I have thoughts on the most recent time, which was 2016 with Donald J. Trump winning against Hillary Rodham Clinton. And it comes down to this, that the electoral votes and the popular vote, look, I can win. I'm going to put this very simply. I can win every single baseball game every game that I win in a football season, I can win by 50 points. But every time I lose, it's just by 3. It's just by a field goal. At the end of the season, my point plus is through the roof. But I'm still 8-8. I'm still tied. But I've scored more every time I've played. And that's what it comes down to. Is in 2016, it was where the Democrats came out to play. They won big time. But where the Republicans came out to play, they won. They did. They won.
A win is a win is a win.
A win is a win is a win. That's all it is. That's all it is. And so then when you start getting into it, it's like, oh, well, our win-loss was 62 and 100, but we were +5 in run differential. Nothing of that matters. What matters is what you win, where it matters. The only reason that the Democrats lost in 2016 was because nobody in the DNC knew where to campaign or how. Hillary Clinton, it was her race to lose, and goddamn if she didn't lose it. I've got more flavorful words I would have added in between if she didn't and lose it. But family show. If it wasn't her race to lose, I don't know whose it was. She lost in the places that really mattered, I will say. Lost. Behind the 8 ball. Didn't get it. After the 8 ball. Didn't get it. Nothing. And you can't call for a certain number because you call for that, and it's always going to be the urban areas. It's always going to be the densely populated. You're going to forget about the entire reason 2016 was won is because somebody, for once ever, did not forget about flyover country. And then, the campaign, I'll say they didn't forget flyover country. I cannot speak on the rest of the entire presidency because it's forgot about a lot of things. There's a lot of things that came up. However, you can't just blame it on numbers. You can't blame it on a confederacy of states. You can't blame it on, a couple bad apples. You forgot about a majority of the country and it came back and bit you in your butt. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And now you can't turn an entire state that wishes for one person to win president. And then the state turns around and says, none of your votes matter. We're voting this way. That's a very surefire way to some kind of arms revolution. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, fair assessment. Makes sense. Very much, breaking up the points that, that need to be brought up because, yeah, you do make a good point. Yeah, the reason Donald Trump won is literally because of flyover. It helped that Mike Pence was on the ticket in Indiana, but still, you have to take into account that, yeah, like you said, for the most part, and Democrats, I think, are a lot more guilty of this than Republicans, although both parties are guilty of doing this almost just as much as each other. But Democrats are a lot more prominent in doing this, only caring about certain voting blocks during election years. And
well, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to say that there's been equal spread, and even more so, I can speak to. I mean, if I look at it historically, the Republicans have neglected urban areas. And as we said, the urban areas have been a historic Democratic voting bloc. It's been, you live in Atlanta, you're voting blue. You live in New York City, you're voting blue. You live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, you're voting blue. It's what it is. And the Reds declined to even challenge those areas. However, in stride, when it comes to things like, you're going to do Mount Vernon, Ohio, every single person listening to this is going to say, where? The Blues are going to shy away from that. When it comes down to any random part of Podunk Town, Ohio, as they would say, as I have been family of, Ohio, nobody in the Democrat camp is going to pay any attention to it. You go for the big hitters. Just as Republicans ignore, and whether it's been in election years or in their administrations, the urban areas, same have the Democrats. With those rural areas, they have ignored them on a campaign trail and in their sort of handing out of favors during their administration. Now, I'm faulting everybody. I'm not giving anybody a free pass. The Democrats have messed up. The Republicans have messed up. Everybody's messed up. But what I'm saying here is what we have to look out for is a little slip, is anything that can go. And I think, as we were mentioning before, is you can't discount a special slip just because the rest of the nation said to go one way. A big voting bloc in Florida, a huge one could go blue. And then Florida, or not Florida, especially because it's not one of the states, I'll say Maryland. A huge block in Maryland could go, yeah, we want to vote, blue. But the entirety of the rest of the United States goes red, and all of Maryland goes red, and they go, yeah, sorry, guys. We got to go red. That's what it winds up as.
The implications are, serious. But again, these are laws that have already been enacted in 16 voting districts, and there are enough pending to get up to 262, which is right on the cusp of what would be a controlling voting bloc that would basically render the Electoral College useless due to its own constitutional protections of states' rights to cast any way they see fit, whether it's according to their population's vote during election day or not. So I'd say it's something to keep an eye on because the legislation is there to get up to 262 very soon, possibly. I think we got to keep an eye on that, and we'll see where this goes, especially after all this reapportionment that I think is going to happen after the census is taken. And once all of that is taken care of, we'll see, what we're going to do with all this, with this situation as a whole. But aside from that, I think we have come to a good stopping point for today's episode. Just one last reminder, be sure to try to put your name in before next week's episode and, write your name in and just basically put 269 to 269 right next to it. And you will have reserved the spot that if the Electoral College ends up tied on election night at 269, we will send you a t-shirt. So all of that being said, thank you for watching. I've been Gerald Mendoza.
I've been Corey Tanisoff, as always.
Yep. And we have been talking politics, and we will see you next week.
Make sure to catch us on Friday, featuring Gerald Mendoza and myself on the We Talk Sports platform, featuring PJ Dolan. It'll be kicking off around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we're just going to talk sports, a little more lighthearted stuff. No seriousness. We argue, we yell, we make jokes, we sit around. Whatever you want, we're there. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one.
See you next week.